Welcome back, everyone. It's finally time to finish things up. Before we do, however, a bit of levity. This is the King's Ultra Greatsword, which we can forge from Ornifex with the King's Soul. This is a cross between a Great Hammer and a Great Sword. It has a Great Sword attack pattern, but it does crushing damage. It's also incredibly heavy, and it takes 50 strength to use in one hand. Now, I would have sort of liked to use this for the end of the game, but it just turned out that I was completely out of Petrified Dragon Bones to upgrade it, and I didn't really want to go farm more, so we're just going to have to content ourselves with a bit of a demonstration. It's quite impressive, in a strange way. To actually go into the final battle, I do have something specific in mind. Our old friend, the Helix Halberd. There are a couple of reasons why I favor this weapon that we'll go over later. One reason is that you can enchant it with lightning. Now, instead of what we're equipped in now, I'm going to go ahead and use the Dragon Torso Stone to go full dragon mode. I mean, I got all those dragon scales, why not? The end of the game lies in the Throne of Want, which we have visited before. Previously, we encountered the Throne Watcher and the Throne Defender, and while we defeated them handily, there wasn't really much to be done there. I mean, it was nice that we got some boss souls and stuff, and we got to pal around with Benhart some more, but until now, we haven't really been able to actually do anything there. However, with the Giant's Kinship in hand, as well as the King's Ring, and all other sorts of interesting things, from crowns to souls to bones, we have everything we need to finish the game. Oh, hello.
My journey is already complete. My name is Shanalot. The dragon gave me this name, for I was born with none. I was born of dragons, contrived by men. By ones who would cozen fate herself. They are the ones who created me. But they failed. I did not come out as intended. Fate would not be bested, and men were cursed once again. If you proceed, Nashandra will come after you, knowing that you will take the throne and link the fire. She covets the first flame and the great soul. Put Nashandra to rest.
Well, the Emerald Herald, or Shanalot more properly now, has decided to give us a bit of an info dump at the last possible minute that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but we've got some Lore Corner videos we can maybe work through that with, but for now, we're just sort of aware now that Nashandra is not going to let this stand as is. Speaking with Vendrick's memory actually granted us a bit of insight as to why. Much like the Silent Oracle that we met back in Eleum Lois, Chandra is a child of the dark, one of the fragments of Nanis, and as such is bound by certain obsessions and desires more than mortal men would be. Not much more, but such as the nature of being alive, curse of want, and all that. Now, if we so desired, we could summon Vengarl and Benhard again, but I want to take this on solo.
Grave undead. You have proven yourself to me. Now, be one with the dark.
This is Nashandra, Queen Regent of Drangleic and the Prisoner of Desire. She's seen better days. Got a bit of Bride of Nito look going on. The first and foremost mechanic of this fight are those little life drain patches that she put up. They will curse you and drain your health very rapidly if you stick near them. They can be dissipated with an attack of any kind, so best advice I can give you is to simply take one out, or maybe take two out, and then just stick around in that area and avoid the others. It's way too much of a pain to get rid of all of them. Nashandra's attacks are slow and easy to read. They do quite a bit of damage, but she takes such horrendous damage from lightning that if you apply it to a strong weapon like the Helix Halberd, then she melts in basically no time. In fact, I intentionally delayed this fight a little bit so that she would actually use some of her other attacks. Aside from scythe swinging, she also has a laser beam that can either go straight ahead or can sweep from side to side. Naturally, the one that sweeps from side to side is more threatening and more difficult to dodge. As the fight goes on, she will also put up another thing of life drain patches, but she's dead so quickly it doesn't matter. She will sometimes do an AoE Dark Burst attack that's kind of cool, but she didn't do it for me that time, so
Many monarchs have come and gone.
Oh, what now?
One drowned in poison, another succumbed to flame. Still another slumbers in the realm of earth. Not one of them stood here. As you do now. You, conqueror of adversities. Give us your answer.
This is Aldia, Scholar of the First Sin. Along with having some of my favorite music in the entire game, Aldia is a boss that was added in, appropriately, the Scholar of the First Sin patch. To fight him, you need to fulfill a number of requirements. You need to converse with him all 3 times in the last layer of the Last Great One, in the Undead Crypt, and in the Dragon Shrine. You also need to kill Vendrick Shell. I would say Vendrick, but it's just, I feel like you're not even killing Vendrick anymore. At any rate, unlike Nashandra, Aldia has quite a bit of endurance and has quite a few tricks up his thorny, branchy sleeve. His main method of attack is with fireballs like that. He's invincible when his roots are on fire, so don't even bother. Whether you like it or not, this fight will probably last a while. I would say it's a good deal harder than Nashandra is. As you can see, the fire does appreciable damage if you're in it, so you need to time your attacks carefully. Another reason why I chose the Helix Halberd, which is, historically, quite good at doing burst damage. His most dangerous attack is probably the one where he summons multiple little fireballs. The big fireball is heavily telegraphed and easy to dodge, but the little ones can be difficult to manage. You need to be rolling fairly quickly and fairly precisely to get out completely unscathed. Obviously, Aldia cannot really move in the traditional sense, so to get around the arena he sort of teleports in and out, much like he has done throughout the rest of the game. He will create a damaging blast on the area that he teleports to, so you can't simply camp him. You will be punished for that. As the fight goes on, his attacks become a bit more intense and a bit more difficult to dodge. He doesn't really have phases as such. Most bosses in Dark Souls kind of don't. However, he will become more dangerous the lower in health he gets, so keep an eye on him. His reappearances will always be telegraphed with that telltale red fiery smoke. Ah, here we are. This is when you can tell things are starting to get serious. If he does that, that means his flames are more intense and do more damage if you're standing next to him, and he'll start doing more attacks in quick succession. This double mini fireball phase is actually pretty brutal, especially because he immediately follows it up with a root strike. This fight has a really good aesthetic. You're never quite sure what you're looking at here. Just what is Aldia, and what did he do to become like this? In this fight, it pays to be cautious, like in basically every fight, but in this fight especially, you want to keep your health topped off just in case of a mishap. He can actually chain together quite a few hits if you let him. Invincibility frames are, as usual, your friends. Now, this is a bit of a mean trick. He appeared right on top of me, and his appearance explosion does a lot of damage. It's difficult to avoid that, except to basically memorize all the possible situations and places he can appear in, and stay sort of off-center from them. It's probably more effort than is really worth it, because he won't actually do anything for a little while after that. Aldia is actually weak to magic damage, though as you might expect, fire doesn't do a whole lot. I don't have very many sorceries that are effective at this point, and I didn't want to go fishing in my inventory for magic ooze, so we just have to make do with good old-fashioned steel.
I'll kill you and remain here patiently. The throne will certainly receive you. But the question remains. Would you tell me? Light, dark, or something else entirely?
Much as our progenitor was so many eons ago, we're faced with a choice. Do we do what is intended of us and take the throne of want? Or do we abandon this entire farce completely? I think by proof of our shining scaly armor, we might be on to finding something better here. There's no reason to continue this cycle. Let's try and find a different way.
There is no path. Beyond the scope of life, beyond the reach of love. What could possibly await us? And yet we seek it insatiably, such as our fate.
And that was the ending, or at least one ending, to Dark Souls 2. I'd like to thank you all for joining me. I'd also like to invite you to listen to this music, perhaps on your own time, because I'm going to be talking. But I find that the ending credits music, especially this new piano arrangement they added for Scholar of the First Sin, to be really quite lovely. Now then, on to business. I'd like to throw out a few special thanks here and there for not just everybody who's watched the thread, but for everybody who's sort of engaged with me on it throughout the 8 months or so that I've been doing this, and we've had conversations about mechanics and certain game theories, and it's been fun. I like that kind of engagement. I'd also like to extend my thanks to everybody who has corrected me on my myriad errors about some of the arcana of this game. I admit that my knowledge of the mechanics and the specificities are not the greatest, so I appreciate any and all attempt to help correct me on that. And of course, I would really like to thank everybody who decided, out of the goodness of their heart, to donate to me. Now, donation is always a completely voluntary thing, and I'm pretty sure that there's been some people that have donated off and on, or have donated at one point and are no longer donating, and that is completely and totally fine, and I'm totally happy with that, and I'm really grateful that you did it at all. But unfortunately, Patreon doesn't seem to actually keep much of a record of that, or at least not that I can find. So, for the time being, I'm just going to thank who is on my list of donors right now, and just extend big hearts and shout-outs and hugs to everybody who has in the past and isn't showing up. If you want to drop me a line or something and say, oh yeah, that was me, by all means, go ahead. So, in order of appearance, I would like to thank Iris Alyssa Dennis. I'd like to thank Wiseblood, Dumb Rodent, Aaron, Jay Teager, my good friend Victor J, you know who you are, Shift, and Alina Twabin. I probably didn't pronounce that right, and I'm sorry. So, thanks to all you guys, like, really, really a lot, because you made, basically, those Bloodborne streams I did a while ago possible at all, and I think we all had a lot of fun with those, so, again, thank you, from the bottom of my heart. I'm very touched by your generosity. So, I guess now some closing comments. Dark Souls 2. Pretty damn good game. I think we can all agree that it's a pretty damn good game. I think there's a lot of discussion that can be had, perhaps, on whether or not the first one is better or not. I don't have nearly enough time in the remainder of this video to actually get on that, but I think that it's fine to have differing opinions about that, because I think both games have some very strong points that they both do very well, and some points where they kind of don't. Now, this is not necessarily the complete end of the thread. I still have some Lore Corner videos and some bonus content, and maybe a couple of ill-advised co-op streams in the DLC area still left to go. But I think this will probably do it for, like, playing through the main game. I sort of overestimated how much there was to show, because I just don't think that people would get very much anymore out of some of the things that I was planning to do. Hopefully, anyway, I've maybe inspired some people to play this game for themselves, and they've been able to explore some more interesting options that I didn't necessarily gloss over. Though I think I did do a pretty good job of showing a lot of different things. overall, I would say that I've had a lot of fun working on this thread, and I honestly never really suffered from burnout. I know I say this directly after coming back from a 2-month hiatus, but that was sort of a different thing. I wouldn't really attribute it to getting tired of doing this, and more to just extenuating circumstances and general laziness. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do for my next project or when it's going to pop up, and like I said, I've still got a couple more things I want to do for this thread. But I'll be thinking about it, and I'm always open to suggestions. I know a lot of people express some desire to see a proper Bloodborne thread by me, and I might do that. I sort of want to wait a little bit on that, though. Maybe wait till it gets some DLC of its own. I'm not sure. Overall, though, I think that this game was really probably the best game of 2014. And that's sort of damning with faint praise in a couple of ways, but I legitimately think that it's an extremely solid, fun game. And while it falters in some ways, there's definitely a real chewy center, I guess if you want to call it that, to the game of just thematic things and background lore that makes it a lot more engaging and interesting than a lot of other games that came out in that time period, or just, in general. I would say that Bloodborne is exactly the same way. Perhaps to an even greater extreme. And again, I'm sort of sorry for constantly name-dropping Bloodborne, but it's sort of hard not to, because this meta-series has become so important. At least I think it has. And, there's sort of this narrative that this game was developed by From Software's B team or whatever, and I'm not really sure how much stock I place in that, because at the end of the day, it's still a really good game. And if you know me, if I can still say that at the credits to a game that's this long, then it probably is. As opposed to certain other examples I could name. Sorry, I'm gesticulating a bit wildly here because I'm interested in what I'm talking about. And you can't even see it, so why did I... Okay, back to what I was talking about. God. At any rate, I'd like to thank you all again for watching. I hope that you had at least a little bit of fun and maybe learned something, or at least enjoyed watching me play through and seeing some of the less explored parts of this game. Some unique weapons and armor, maybe. A lot of my actual final analysis will probably come in lore videos, so if you want to hear me talk really in depth about that, then stay tuned. If you don't, then I don't really blame you. I can talk about this for ages. One final thing of note before we go. Once you finish the game, it will actually pop you out back in the overworld in Majula. You don't actually immediately go to New Game Plus like in other games. Instead, you can sort of tool around for a little while longer and get upgrade materials and stuff if you so desire. To actually start a New Game Plus, you need to go to the Far Fire in Majula and select that option. Sort of an odd thing to tack on at the very end, but I figured that it was relevant. I remember somebody actually asked about it earlier in the thread, so, last minute, just making sure everybody knows that's how you do it. I was very sudden about it, too. In fact, in a few seconds, it will dump us to a loading screen and then out in Majula. So, here we are again. Maybe nothing's changed, maybe it has. But I'll see you all later.